中開我。
Members, it's time for our second session. Please invite the deputations into the room, please.
同事們，呢一節呢，我哋預計係去到大約係。
We expect the meeting to last, or this session rather, to last until 1 p.m. I will invite the deputations to speak, and then I'll ask the EP, the AFCD, and the AA to respond, and then I'll open the floor to members for questions.
歡迎咁多位與會嘅。
May I welcome colleagues and also members of the public attending our meeting. Please take your seats according to the instruction of the Secretariat.
呢一節我哋有30位嘅公眾人士係參與我哋嘅會議。
We have 30 deputations participating in this session. After you've settled in, I just want to remind you that those who speak, those members of the public who want to speak, will be given 3 minutes each. And when the time is up, I will have to stop you. If you need to give your speaking notes to members for reference before you leave, please put down your name on your speaking notes, and then the speaking notes will be given to the officials and members of the panel. I would like to remind you that your speech, neither your speech nor your written submission, will be protected by the Electoral Powers and Privileges Ordinance. And there are instructions in respect of attending the meetings in this council, and such instructions are tabled in front of you if you have not received such instructions beforehand. Let us start. 3 minutes each. Ms. LAI Tsz-yan first. Good morning. I'm studying environmental management in the university. With regard to the third runway, I oppose the construction of the third runway for environmental reasons. The EIA report has been endorsed, but the report has not seriously dealt with the environmental problems caused by the third runway. There will be huge reclamation, and the reclamation covers the habitats of the dolphins. The number of dolphins are declining. There are many reclamation projects near Lantau, and they are threatening the dolphins. Further reclamation will only drive away all the dolphins. The compensation measures include a marine park after the completion of the third runway, and that is not compensation at all. It's impossible to demolish a home and then render some people homeless, and then only after a few years provide another home for the those who are rendered homeless. As mentioned by Dr. Hong in the previous session, even after the completion of the marine park, the dolphins would have already died, and they will not come back, therefore. And there will be a lot of pollutants caused by the airport. As for the retail and tourism industry, they say they're important to Hong Kong. When Hong Kong is very messy, and when there are no more dolphins, when Hong Kong is very polluted, then tourists will not be interested in Hong Kong. Noise pollution will also affect the livelihood of the Tung residents seriously, and no resolution has been proposed. no effective resolution has been proposed. It said that there can be monitoring measures, there can be remedial measures. But if you don't build the third runway, you don't need remedial measures, you don't have these environmental problems. The project costs about $100 billion. And there will be cost overruns, just like the Hong Kong-Macau-Zhuhai Bridge and the Express Rail. They just report a small, they just tell you a small number, and afterwards they ask for more provisions. I think the money should better spent on providing more university places or better social welfare for the disadvantaged. Even if the EIA report is endorsed, there are still a lot of problems. I'm disappointed. As a young person, like other young persons, we have no confidence in government. Next, Mr. Tony Khan.
Good morning to all of you. I'm managing DHL Aviation in Hong Kong. DHL Central Asia Hub is located in Hong Kong International Airport, which is one of the 3 global transshipment hubs of DHL Express in the world. In recent years, we experienced substantial growth ever since the commissioning of Central Asia Hub in 2004, leading to expansion phase by phase until now. Today, I'm here to share with you the outlook of air cargo business in Hong Kong and our views regarding the third runway proposal. In July 2011, we shared with the panel on economic development that we were optimistic about the future business opportunity based on the Airport Authority Hong Kong forecast of air cargo volume to 8.9 million tons by 2030. Today, we remain optimistic because the cargo volume annual growth in 2014 will be about 6% at Hong Kong International Airport, whose processing of air cargo volume has been ranked #1 in 2013 since 2010, and whose growth momentum has outperformed the other international airports. We have no reason to doubt the business opportunity in the aviation and logistic industry of Hong Kong in the future under globalization. Despite the top ranking, Hong Kong is facing more keen competition from other international airports, especially in Asia Pacific. For this reason, we strongly believe that it's pointing to the facts that demand for airport facilities are keen, investing into airport facilities are low financial risk. Meanwhile, we learned from Airport Authority Hong Kong that a series of measures for improving the environment, in particular in connection with air quality and aircraft noise, would be considered, such as mandatory uses of fixed ground power and preconditioned air system by all airlines, the installation of 290 charging stations for electric vehicle and electric ground support equipment, etc. Therefore, we trust that the society, Airport Authority Hong Kong, and other stakeholders can and will conclude measures for the construction of the third runway. We are responsible to the society, to the world, for protecting the environment, while we are also responsible for making room for development of our Hong Kong next generations. We support embarking on the construction of the third runway. Thank you.
Thank you. 下一位
Next, Mr. Alex Shum. Chairman, members of the public, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Alex Shum, Chief Operating Officer of Cathay Pacific Services Limited. On behalf of the company, we support the construction of the third runway of the Hong Kong International Airport. This is in support of the future development of Hong Kong. Since 2010, Hong Kong has become the busiest airport in the world. In the past 15 years, air freight grew about 7% per year. Since 1998, the volume increased from 1.63 tons to 4.4 million tons. Now, we are well located, we are efficient in handling cargo, we have a great air traffic network. Mainland and Asian airports are developing very rapidly. Hong Kong are facing the constraint of the 2 runways. Airline companies find it difficult to get more slots. The expansion of the third runway will maintain Hong Kong's long-term competitiveness. We understand the importance of sustainable development. While building the third runway, we need to strike a suitable balance. between environmental protection and economic development. We believe that the AA will introduce mitigation measures in order to achieve the objectives of balancing economic development with protecting the environment. Next, Mr. Spencer Lee.
Innovation and Technology Association, I would like to express our support on building the third runway for the betterment of the economic development of Hong Kong. Innovation and Technology Association is always looking for new technological advancement to create positive benefits to the community. The sustainability of a major infrastructure project requires the achievement of economic success, social success, and high economic quality altogether. In this large-scale third one-way project, AA Hong Kong hence considered a lot of constructive ideas, construction methods to reduce the impact to the economy during the construction phase. I must admit to thank for the government, commercial, and the public consolidate effort on this study. One reason why Hong Kong is so successful is sustainability. I would like to bring out our attention on the following factors, which must always be considered and assessed in a continuous way. Indeed, it's not a one-stop process, but a continual process. These factors are the interests and concerns of the stakeholders. A comprehensive coverage of different stakeholders must be included and explained. The wider sustainability issues such as social, economic, and environmental impacts at a scale beyond this project and the specific interests of AA Hong Kong. The adoption of new technology must be taken and be aware. Although there's a lot of design issues like using new types of airplane, reduce of noise, using new constructive equipment and practice, and different infrastructure technologies during the construction stage, AA Hong Kong must be open to study any new technology in the near future within the constraint to create better results for Hong Kong. AA Hong Kong must be open to new technology and give a recommendation for new technology adoption. However, consultancy and construction companies must be well informed. The public also must be well informed about the progress and changes. Once again, there's a few issues we must confirm with. One is the manpower problem. Can Construction Industry Council train enough new blood, including our young people, to supply the skilled labor? And also any supporting and incentive can be provided to encourage them to participate in this meaningful project. Last but not the least, I would like to urge AA Hong Kong and Hong Kong government to communicate more with the public for the future project, even the project is finally approved. This concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Next is Mr. Chun Kin-ming. Chairman and members of the public, I am Chun Kin-ming. I represent Asia Airfreight Terminal Company Limited, one of the operators at the airport. The air cargo throughput at our airport is growing at a slow pace, just 2 to 3% per year. In Guangzhou, in Shenzhen, the throughput, air cargo throughput is growing by 6 or 7% per year. That phenomenon is directly or indirectly related to the capacity of our airport. Among our airline clients, many airlines have been asking for time slots from the CAD. As for air cargo planes, they face a lot of difficulties. The airlines have made applications, but approvals have not been given.
Shows that the air freight companies can find customers, but we can't do the business. This has to do with the saturation of the runways. Unfortunately, the freight will stay in the storage areas and later be dealt with. And later they will move to other airports. And once we lose the business, it's difficult to get them back. Now, this threatens our status as the #1 cargo handling airport in the world. we hope that this will not continue to deteriorate. Now, as an operator of Airfreight terminal in this airport, we have invested a lot of resources in our cargo handling facilities. Therefore, we are very much in support of the early launching of the 3RS. Next, Mr. AU YEUNG Kwok-wah. Thank you. I support expansion of the airport. Now, the airport capacities are limited, and yet demand keeps growing. We have to act ahead. Now, I will not talk about environmental impact or economic loss or protection of dolphins. Now, at the consultation forums and in the EIA reports, we already know the figures. Some of the deputations just now also cited a lot of numbers. Now, many green groups are objecting for one reason only, that is the third runway damages the environment. We try to protect a few dozen white dolphins, and yet we stand in the way of Hong Kong's economic development. Is that worth it? From Cathay to Czech Lapcot, over 10 odd years, the Hong Kong airport has become a top airport in the world. The passenger volume has grown rapidly. By 2030, we will make huge strides. We will double and then double again in passenger and air freight traffic. Next, Ms. LEE Ching-yi. I am concerned about nature and environment. I'm against the construction of the third runway. This overlooks the interests of the public and the environment. There is a lot of negative impact. The EIA is misleading in many aspects. It underestimates the damage to the environment. The reclamation area is too large. It's 650 hectares. It damages the marine ecology, and which cannot recover. And it also is the habitat of the Chinese white dolphins. Now, people say that the dolphins can adapt and they will come back, but maybe the damage is already too large for them to ever come back. And there is a lot of underwater noise problem. So their numbers have been dwindling. And once this large-scale reclamation starts, this will push them over the precipice. Now, the place is very close to the existing Shao Chao, Long Ku Chao marine park, so there will be a lot of damage. And the AA has the wrong concept of doing damage first and then doing compensation afterwards. And only years later will we have this marine park. It's large, but that's not the point. Will it be effective? After 10 years, will the dolphins be able to come back? Will they have survived over the 7 years? And the AA doesn't have the authority to establish a marine park. The government should undertake conservation first before it develops. And the EIA makes too many optimistic assumptions. It assumes that in 7 years the dolphins will come back, and it also assumes that the dolphins will only swim there during the day, and the nighttime noise monitoring cannot detect the dolphins' activities at night in this place. So all the assumptions indicate that the EIA is inadequate. and the mitigation measures are inadequate also. It says it will limit the speed of the high-speed ferries, but it won't limit the numbers of these ferries. So the sea is full of these high-speed ferries. The dolphins cannot come up for air. So I am against the third runway. We shouldn't just look at the economy. We share the earth along with other creatures. Mr. Whitehead, please.
As CEO of the world's largest air cargo terminal, Hactl, it will come as no surprise to you that I find the arguments in favour of the third runway very compelling. Hong Kong International Airport has been the world's busiest air cargo airport for many years and currently handles over 4.2 million tonnes of international air cargo. Over many years in Hong Kong, the logistics industry has developed and is an integral part of Hong Kong's economy, contributing to it both directly and indirectly. There are studies that show that aviation and aviation-related tourism in Hong Kong supports 8.2% of our GDP and 7.3% of Hong Kong jobs. The airport currently provides employment for nearly 65,000 people, and with a new third runway that would obviously increase. Hong Kong quite naturally faces increased competition from airports both in southern China and around the region. And airlines and freight forwarders are always looking for the most cost-effective and time-efficient means of moving their cargo. Nowhere, Hong Kong included, can afford to turn away business. And if we do not build the third runway, that is effectively what we do in a very important sector of our business. Proactive measures must be taken to sustain our hub status at the airport and to build on the efficiencies we have built for many, many years. There are clear examples of where people have not acted, and the best would be London, where they failed with their third runway bid. And that immediately meant that a lot of business went across to European competitors. And business like that does not come back quickly.
Thank you. 唔該晒，下一位係陳樹生先生。
Next, Mr. Chen.
I greatly appreciate the efforts of the Airport Authority in carrying out an in-depth and professional environmental impact assessment. We support the recommendations in the EIA on how to build the runway and that it will be a sustainable part of the Hong Kong economy, and we as an industry will be committed to working to make sure that environmental issues are taken extremely seriously. Finally, it must be recognised that the benefits of the three-runway system will extend way beyond the logistics and aviation sectors and positively affect the economy and the daily life of every Hong Kong citizen. And so I urge, let's keep focused on the sustainable growth of air transport to support a prosperous Hong Kong. Thank you.
Thank you. 下一位陳樹生先生。
早晨。
Next, Mr. Chen Shu-shen. Good morning. I'm of the New Territories Taxis Operation Limited Union. Now, we support the construction of the third runway to the HKIA. Many people think that the expanding the runway via the third runway is of imminent need. Now, Hong Kong is a developed international city. We need an aviation hub. The taxi industry is, of course, very welcoming of the new project. We do not want Hong Kong to lose out to other places. If we do not construct the third runway, there will be huge economic loss in the future. Of course, in constructing the third runway, we take into account not only the undoubtable economic benefits, we also take into account the environmental needs. But if we merely try to protect the white dolphins and as a result cause huge economic loss to Hong Kong, I don't think that's something that the Hong Kong public wish to see. If we can have both the new airport and the construction of a marine park nearby in compensation, then that would be an optimal way out. Now, the white dolphins will eventually come back if we maintain, able to maintain a good marine environment eventually. So we think that this is an optimal solution, both to take care of the dolphins and also meet the needs for an international airport.
Thank you, Chairman. My name is Tom Ledger and I hold an economics degree from the University of Western Australia. I'm currently interning at the Lion Rock Institute. Adding capacity for a third runway makes sense here, but I believe there are a number of issues surrounding the role of the government in financing the runway and a growing underlying public mistrust in government reports such as the EIA, and it is negligent to ignore these issues before embarking on such a colossal project. The problem here is most people do not trust the pass-mark conclusion of government-backed reports such as the EIA, given the project is of such a large scale, and for instance the health impact assessment is based on optimistic assumptions by airport authority-hired consultants. The role of the government here is conflicted as it seeks to balance the interests of individuals against the common good, as well as informing the public of findings such as acceptable health and air impacts. How can this report be objective when its validity is shackled by the airport authority's economic self-interest? Much like the British government did with Heathrow, consulting should be opened up to other institutions to conduct their own findings into environmental impacts. At least then an independent view is available for additional analysis. Only then the people of Hong Kong gain the full spectrum of information into such a crucial long-term matter that they deserve. Much more needs to be done beyond the statutory EIA. And this is only one example. These government's problems and public mistrust extend to other aspects of the project too, such as blown-out costs. What will the figure of 130 billion be in a year's time? When I flew into Hong Kong, I was in awe of the volume of traffic the airport already processed. But increasing capacity is a risk. Let private hands with required capital take this risk and conduct these assessments. If private investors seek the profits evident within a positive cost-benefit analysis, or even if the government hired consultants to draft a tender for private companies to bid, this would lead to greater incentive for plans to run to schedule, a tighter budget that avoids another white elephant, a natural tendency for better governance, and does not cost the taxpayer anything. The market solves the problem better than the government can. The everyday people of Hong Kong have clearly become disillusioned by a government that has continually gone over budget with projects, such as the current Hong Kong-Zhuhai-Macau Bridge. The argument that it is dangerous to allow public assets to fall into private hands is surely made redundant with the success of the MTR network. If the market decides we need a third runway, let it be built, but by private companies who will provide a better result. And if we're relying on a report on environmental impacts, let the private sector into the debate. It's time the people of Hong Kong felt they can trust again.
Thank you. 下一位係尹旭樹先生。
主席、各位到會人士，你哋好。
Mr. Wen Yuk-shun, I am a retired Tung resident. I support the 3RS. Now, given my personal experience, now I worked both in HKIA and in the Heathrow London Airport. Now, in the 70s, I started working in Cathay Airport, and in the late 80s, I left the Cathay. I witnessed a lot of expansion of the airport facilities during that time. I witnessed the development of Hong Kong's economy and of the airport. When I went to the Heathrow Airport, I knew that it's one of the busiest in Europe, but because there was a lot of objections, so the new runway cannot be developed for a long time. I also participated in part of the work at the Heathrow, but due to many political objections, so everything moved ahead at a snail's pace or not at all. Now, when I moved back to Hong Kong, I learned that the population and tourism pose a strong demand on the airport, so I support the 3RS. As a Tung Chung resident, I know that Tung Chung's development is already late by about 10 years. By timetable, or by the original timetable, there should be 200,000 in population, yet it's 90,000 only. So if there is new development at the airport, there will be new job opportunities for the Tung Chung residents. Also, the Lantau Island is a green tourist destination, so the tourism industry will benefit greatly, especially for those in the transport and catering services. Now, from the green perspective, I think that right now there's inadequate runway capacity, so there is more circling in the skies and more staying on the ground, and there's more noise, and the circling above Ma Wan, etc., causes a nuisance to the residents. And because Hong Kong is affected by typhoons, there very often the shortage of facilities at the airport cause a lot of inconvenience to the delayed passengers, and it hurts Hong Kong's international reputation. Next, now I am a Tung Chung resident. Now, having collected some of the views of the Tung Chung residents, they wish the third runway to be developed soon. Now, the development of Tung Chung has been late by 10 years. Tens of thousands of jobs hang on this. Now, for young people, they want to find jobs nearby, and they want to have major enterprises in the vicinity so that they can progress gradually to middle management. Now, some Tung Chung residents are quite confident and about the AAHK. Now, the residents of Yat Tong Estate say that they don't really hear the noise from the planes, so they are quite praiseworthy of the AA's environmental efforts. Now, and also the takeoff frequency and has been lowered because of weather and so on. So there's a lot of circling above and a lot of consumption of fuel which is wasted as a result. So we support the construction of the third runway. We also, as Tung Chung resident, we are also concerned about the conservation of Chinese white dolphins. And yet a lot of the white dolphins have actually migrated elsewhere already. So we should go ahead and quickly build the new marine park, the AAHK, and the government should expedite in this regard so that the white dolphins can have a stable place to live.
The residents of Tung Chung are generally in support of the third runway. Next, Mr. Jack Lee. Good morning. My name is Jack Lee, and I represent China Aircraft Services Limited. And I'd like to give our company's view on the third runway. We are an international joint venture with ventures in China, Hong Kong, and America, and we provide aircraft services in Hong Kong. We are in full support of the government and airport authority on the third runway projects. As an international aviation hub, Hong Kong has always faced a lot of challenges from neighboring cities. And with the current discussions on the third runway, we do think that it is necessary in order to preserve Hong Kong's status as an international flight hub. Just imagine 20 years ago if the Hong Kong government did not decide to build a new airport in Lantau Island, and at the same time our neighboring cities such as Macau, Guangzhou, Shenzhen, or even Shanghai, Singapore, or cities in Korea and Japan. At the same time, if these cities were expanding their airports and upgrading their airports, if we had not done anything, you can imagine whether we can maintain our status as an international aviation hub. When we, as far as conservation is concerned, we saw a lot of Chinese white dolphins 20 years ago. So what should we do? So the key is to preserve our environment while launching new developments. As an international financial hub, the airport creates a lot of high-end jobs, and at the same time, we have to maintain a comfortable living environment. So we have to balance, strike a balance between quality living environment and economic development. Hong Kong is no Australia or New Zealand. We don't have a lot of minerals, mines, water resources. We can only compare ourselves to Singapore. So I hope everyone can support the third runway in Tung, and at the same time, the government should do more about the environment. And this is not the sole effort of Hong Kong. We need the help of the China government and the Macau government, or else no matter how much resources we put in, there's still not much we can do. Thank you very much, Mr. Zhu Chao. Chairman, members, good morning. I'm from the Hong Kong Green Strategy Alliance. We are generally in support of the development of the expansion of the airport into a three-runway system. And the runway is important to the aviation trade as well as other trades. And the Hong Kong International Airport is important to the entire Asia-Pacific region. In order to enhance understanding for the public, we recommend detailed announcements. For example, a comparison between the two-runway and three-runway systems in terms of social impacts. And they also have to show the need for third runway. And recently, an estimation was announced on the passenger amount in 2030, and for surrounding PRD, in the PRD region, there have been a lot of airport developments, and such figures would help the public understand the need for such a for new runway. And air quality is also very important. The Alliance is aware of the air quality control measures in place, and we support these mitigation measures in order to minimize pollutant emissions. And noise control is also an important issue. And at different phases of the third runway, we support different noise planning issues and measures. And in the daytime, only two runways will be used, and the third runway would be used at nighttime only. And the impacts to dolphins seem to be the most controversial issue during the entirely public engagement process. We agree that the dolphins' habitats will inevitably be disturbed during the construction phase of this period, but our view is that the sea has no boundaries and the construction areas only constitutes a small portion of the total sea area. And after the construction is over, the dolphins can migrate back to the airport area. And we recommend further studies on the dolphin habitat and migration patterns. Thank you very much. Next, Ms. Yeung Cheng-ya. Good morning. I'm a young person who is concerned about the issue. I'm opposed to the runway project because it has grave environmental impacts. A lot of dumping will be involved with the construction projects, and it will harm the environment as well as the dolphins. So why are the dolphins so important? They are an endangered species, and they are protected under the relevant ordinances, and we have a right to protect these dolphins, and they are also an appeal to tourists, and they are also a kind of mascot of Hong Kong. And if we cannot even protect our mascot, I'm very doubtful on how the government can protect other species. And apart from dolphins, we have other endangered or threatened species, including fish, corals, and they all share the same home on our waters. If we lose these species, no matter how much money we make, these species can never be recovered. According to the EIA report, a marine park is recommended. I think this is this is not effective. You are just dodging the problem because you are causing irreversible damages. There had been suggestions to build marine parks in Lantau Island, but they were opposed by fishermen, and as such, the plans did not go ahead. So there's no way I can believe the airport authority. And in terms of air quality, there will be a lot of carbon emissions and a lot of waste generated. And I'm really concerned for the health of the Tung residents. And my second concern is the use of public money. We are talking about more than $100 billion. We have seen in many previous mega projects that the government has overspent. I'm not sure whether the government can effectively control the budget. And the huge amount of money would really affect the interests of the taxpayers and the people of Hong Kong. A lot of grassroots families in Hong Kong have never boarded a flight before, no matter how many runways we have. This is something we still have not changed. And by 2030, when the third runway becomes saturated, what are you going to do? Thank you very much. Mr. Leung Chun-hin, I'm just an ordinary resident of Hong Kong. We can see from the news that after the environmental permit was issued, the public is no longer interested in discussing these environmental issues and the issue of dolphins. I'm not going to talk about the dolphins today. I want to talk about the future generations of Hong Kong. And during the 1980s, what were the reasons for our prosperity? Our past generations went ahead with the land reclamations of the Victoria Harbour, and the reclamation persisted until very recently. And a lot of our beautiful rivers were turned into sewage pipes, and we have a lot of stinky sewage pipes all around Hong Kong. And what I want to say is that the third runway, by building the third runway, we will sacrifice our white dolphins as well as a lot of precious natural resources, which have already been compromised in past decades. We have a lot of environmental problems nowadays, which I wouldn't go into details. So I'd like to ask members and the government and our public to think about this issue. Are we going to sacrifice our blue sky in return for economic gains? And the decision whether or not to build the third runway really hinges on the development mode of the government. Since the 1980s, is Hong Kong going to use the same approach by endless reclamations and developments? For the third runway system, the government is only looking at development and ignoring everything else. And by joining hands with the airport authority, they are trying to force the issue, try to force the project through. If we still retain the same thinking, even with the construction of a third runway, Hong Kong will not benefit in the future, and our future generations will suffer. I agree with the importance of economic development, but money would be useless unless it can buy better lives for our people. So I'm opposed to the building of the third runway. Next, Ms. Suchiki. I'm a student. When I look at this third runway project, I would ask myself the question whether this is really necessary. So when I look at the 2030 overall plan of Hong Kong, I have a big question. Between 2007 to 2012, the red lines show the usage forecasts. So were these actually estimates, or were these actual figures of passenger or flight numbers? I hope to see clarifications or corrections, because this is rather misleading to the public. But even if we assume that these figures or estimates were accurate, our demands will only increase in the future. I've heard a lot of views supporting the third runway. They would compare Hong Kong with other countries like UK and Australia, but compared with Hong Kong, they are much, much bigger, and Hong Kong is only a tiny city. Can we really afford to take in such big capacities? And I'd also like to talk about the SEA, or Strategic Environmental Assessment. We've conducted SEA for other projects. I hope we can conduct SEA for the third runway project as well. The EIA only focuses on the engineering aspects and technical aspects, and it only serves to mitigate possible negative environmental impacts. A lot of countries have adopted SEA. For example, Scotland, they have a legislation framework in place for SEAs. So I hope we can do the same for the third runway. The proposal has laid out very clearly the aggregate impacts. So we cannot assess these impacts unless we do SEAs. Apart from air quality and noise pollution, we have a lot of other environmental problems. We are not just talking about Chinese white dolphins and corals. We are talking about an entire ecosystem under the ocean. We are affecting marine organisms as well as other things. For the land reclamation proposals, we had some rented vessels and had a look outside at the waters outside Lantau Island, and the situation was very bad already last year. Sorry, time's up. Next, Ms. Yu Hin-pik. A lot of deputations mentioned the economic gains of a third runway. I noticed that a lot of them are actually working in the aviation or logistics trades. We can see that in our past consultations, a lot of these proponents of the projects are actually beneficiaries of the projects. But my question is whether the economic gains are really so substantial. And some opposers usually cite the Chinese white dolphins, and I've brought some pamphlets with me today. They reflect the views of green groups on issues rather than Chinese white dolphins. So if you're interested, you can obtain a copy from me. And for this project, we are talking about an overall construction cost of $110 billion. These and the costs will be borne by taxpayers in Hong Kong. And a lot of public groups have done assessments on the return on investment. We did not just look at the gains from for the logistics aviation. We also looked at impacts to the environment, such as air and noise pollution. These opportunity costs were not taken into account. And according to these reports, we might face an overall deficit of more than $100 billion at the end for the third runway. So are we going to? Can we really show that this social cost? Since with Mr. Lee of the Airport Authority present today, we agree that even with the third runway, it will be saturated within 7 to 10 years. And can we take this opportunity today? Can the Airport Authority let us know when a fourth or even fifth runway will be needed in Hong Kong? As far as environmental impacts are concerned, even though the EIA report was approved, as a lot of deputations said, a lot of assumptions were based on very optimistic assumptions. So at the end, the report might not be accurate, and the impacts to dolphins and air quality were not as mild as suggested in the report. Development cannot continue non-stop. Can we think about other modes of development? Next, Mr. Kwok-wah. I'm just an ordinary citizen of Hong Kong, and I'm opposed to the third runway. I'd like to talk about the problem of noise. Some studies show that noise pollution has negative impacts to health, for example, loss of appetite, loss of sleep, etc. In a lot of advanced cities like Sydney, I've been there. They have no flights at midnight, and at that time, I found it strange that such a big city did not have flights around the clock. But today, I realize that there's a reason. Does it mean that the Sydney government treasure the health of its people more than economic gains? I've been here a lot of times and trying to oppose such plans. As we talk about sustainable development, do we really understand what these words mean? According to the government, sustainable development means the development of the society without harming future generations. So what exactly are our needs? A new runway can bring about economic gains, but who can actually benefit from the extra money earned? Can the extra money help improve our lives? Spending $180 billion on a runway, we can actually use this money on a lot of things: universal retirement protection, population aging, housing, etc. Can we really spend our money on places which are worth spending on? A lot of people are concerned with Hong Kong losing its competitive edge, and as such, they are proposing a new runway. But are these people actually aware of global trends?
Now, during the climate summit, the ICAO gave the undertaking that before 2015, through various cooperation arrangements, carbon emission will be reduced substantially. And at the climatology summit, Mr. Ban Ki-moon said,
walking up to the economic and social opportunities of taking actions on climate change. The climate summit is showcasing a level of ambition not seen before and producing actions and new initiatives that will make a significant difference. 想大家明白，保護氣候係
protecting the air is the world trend. Mr. Shin of the Lions Rock Institute. Well, we sympathize with the AEA, whether it is EIA or the future financing. The airport authority has taken up the sin of building white elephants. Now they claim that there is economic benefits. There are economic benefits. It's not a white elephant. Same for the express rail, same for the Chingsha tunnel, same for the roads and bridges. These are so-called quality assessments. Just like the US dollar, it is under quantitative easing, its value is getting lower and lower. If that is rapid growth, then it will be climate summit or environmental summit. You meet environmental the green groups going overseas by air. Now our concern is about the time slots. If there are restrictions on the slots, then the big aeroplane should be encouraged. A bigger plane can carry more passengers and more goods. We ask the AA, they follow the international practice. Higher charge for bigger planes, lesser charge for a smaller plane. Nobody will fly bigger planes to Hong Kong. You need the third runway and you need the fourth runway because there is no efficiency. As for the dolphins, we say we will be hindered by the dolphins. I think dolphins are as smart as humans. If your home is being furnished, then you will ask your neighbor when will you be out for work, and then will accommodate you. Does the AA know where the dolphins go normally if their habitat is disturbed? Now the AFCD is not allowed to do tagging. We go to the airport, we conduct a visit. Mrs. C was also present. If you look at National Geographic, they tag the dolphins. Why didn't you tag the dolphins? When you put these questions to the authorities, we want you build the airport, we are afraid of delay. But your report is not up to the mark. I don't know whether members can ask more questions. Can they ask where the dolphins go? Will they swim to Macau or to the Pearl River estuary? You can only say that we have dolphin sightings here. Your time is up, Mr. Sun. Next is Mr. Chen. Chairman and members, we support the government building the third runway, and we also support the environmental measures. The third runway will bring about economic benefits of $160 billion and create 140,000 jobs directly. We have had the views from green groups this meeting. I think that the green groups are damaging the environment. They respect the white dolphins, but they also affect other environmental protection measures. On the 1st of January, I flew into Hong Kong in the air. I stayed in the air for about 45 minutes, approaching Hong Kong. If there are 60 flights per hour, 2 runway means 120 flights. 120 flights staying in the air for an hour, consume fuel, and pollute the air. They cause huge environmental impacts. It's just like having 2 parking spaces and 4 or 5 vehicles are going round and round, but cannot park into the parking spaces. We support the airport authority building the 3rd runway, and they should respect the view and demand of the green groups and try to find a balance. Mr. Chan Sai Kong, I represent the Chin-Wan groups. I've read the EIA report of the AA on the 3rd runway. I support the administration and the AA building the 3rd runway. It's not that we don't need to take an aeroplane. I bought the plane on the first time at the age of 19, but my son bought the plane for the first time. Boarded the plane on the first time when he was 3. People making use of aeroplanes more often. The number of flights are increasing. It's increasing leaps and bounds. Hong Kong is a small place. We have railways linking China, and we have ferries linking Macau. If we go to other places, whether you're attending an environmental conference in other parts of the world or whether you're attending other conferences, you need to take an aeroplane. So the airport is very important. International cities like New York and London need airport. In New York, they have 3 airports. London has 5 airports. Paris has 3 airports. Japan has 2. Tokyo, rather, has Narita and Haneda airports. We cannot build a 2nd airport, but we can build the 3rd runway. I'm the chairman of a local association in Chin-wan. Last year, September, we did a recruitment exercise with the AA. 20,000 people came to the recruitment exercise, and 3,000 people had interviews, and about 200 joined the AA afterwards. I'm a stakeholder in Chin-wan. The recruitment conference helped a lot in letting people know more about the airport. Chin-wan residents need more job opportunities. Many young people, having graduated from schools, don't know what job they can do. The building of the 3rd runway will provide 140,000 jobs from a low number of about 50,000. Many young people want jobs. We hope that the 3rd runway can start as early as possible. If there is further delay, there will be cost escalation, and people will have to pay for that. Thank you. Next, Mr. Chung Ka-wing. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We represent the Chin-wan Youth Association. The Chin-wan Youth Association has many young members. Chin-wan is one of the communities that is close to the airport. We support the 3rd runway. There are many young people living in Chin-wan. The new runway will provide more job opportunities, a lot more. And it's a good place for the people for the young people of Chin-wan. We young people need to broaden our perspective. The airport provides a very good opportunity for young people. Young people can learn a lot from the airport. The young people can explore the world through the airport. We support the construction of the runway. As for environmental protection, We've looked at the remedial measures in the EIA report. Many are predictions. As for protection of dolphins, they are all just predictions. I believe the EIA, the EPD, in approving the permit, has considered a lot, and the proposals are able to remedy the situation. The proposals should be workable. We hope that the third runway can be built as early as possible. The longer the delay, the higher the cost. The estimate now may be very different if there is any delay. And if it will just be mere talk if we don't go ahead and work. Thank you. Next, Mr. Mark Fu. I speak on behalf of the Liberal Party. The Liberal Party supports the construction of the third runway. We have prepared a lot of data. We have already heard a lot of supportive data from the speakers. I would like to target at the reasons of objection. Now, some say that only the vested interests will support the airport. That's absolutely wrong. We have done a survey. 54% of the interviewees were satisfied with the EIA report of the AA. 67% of the citizens were of the view that the third runway should be built as early as possible. That's clearly a very important piece of public opinion. They are not the views of the logistics or aviation sector. In 2013, the throughput for passengers is about 63 million. That's one of the top rankings. If we look at neighboring cities, say Singapore, Kuala Lumpur, Beijing, Jakarta, after expansion of their airports, their throughputs reach 84 million, 64 million, over 100 million. The data show that if we don't build the third runway, then very soon we will just be at par with Jakarta, 62 million. Hong Kong, being an aviation hub, is just at the level of Jakarta. I don't know whether you are happy with that. Hong Kong is an so-called an international aviation hub, but we don't have direct flight with Geneva, Vienna, or Berlin. Not to say direct flights with North Africa or Central America. Now we need to increase the capacity of the airport. We are now operating at capacity. Even if we want to add new destinations, we can't do that. We need to find a balance between development and environmental protection, which shouldn't scrap development because of some other factors. We can see that there are effective measures proposed by the AA to remedy the damage to environment. Good infrastructure is important to the development of a city. If we are indecisive, if we are complacent, then we will become cities which had been excluded by development. Next, Mr. Dominic Lee. I'm disappointed at the progress of constructing the third runway. Why are we so slow? I haven't been with the political party for a very long time. I've spoken on that many times. The first time I spoke was in 2011 in this council. The consultation process is very long. It's said by some speakers to say the Bayun Airport will soon have its third runway. Singapore is expanding its airport. Shanghai is building its fifth runway, and we're just talking about the third runway. Even if we make a decision today, we still have a few more years to go before we have the third runway. Why is it so slow? What's the problem? Now, some speakers spoke on cost overruns. Labor costs and material costs will continue to increase. The more the delay, the higher the cost. Some green groups or political groups may proceed with JR. Let us proceed. Let us work according to the consensus. According to surveys not only done by us but by other groups, 70 to 80% of the citizens support the third runway consistently. What are we waiting for? What is the objective of environmental protection? The objective should be people-oriented. If we ignore the need of the people for the sake of protecting the environment, then that's wrong. Even if we don't have the third runway, then the demand for air traffic will only go to neighboring cities. We are irresponsible. We just push the problem to our neighbors. We have such a good environmental monitoring system. We have EIA system. We have consultation system, and our AA is doing very well. We have the ability. We should meet the rise in demand for air traffic. By all means, we should build our own runway. Let us build the third runway as soon as possible. Next, Mr. Harris Young. I would like to ask you to put your mind back to the start of building the Chung Airport. At that time, there were the tree frogs, there were the dolphins. Now the tree frogs disappeared. They went to Lama. Environmental protection doesn't mean no development. Development can be balanced with environmental protection. Originally, the Romus frogs were not in Lama Island. All of them have gone to Lama. That's protection. That's environmental protection. That's conservation. When they built the airport, the British didn't face this problem. They moved the Tin Hau Temple away. The Tin Hau Temple had 100 years of history. At that time, the white dolphins were not killed. The white dolphins were there, and the white dolphins have been relocated. Now there are two runways. There is the Chung Kwok Airport, and then the dolphins came back. The dolphins did move themselves away during the construction of the Chung Kwok Airport. The Chung Kwok Airport the dolphins didn't extinct because of the Chung Kwok Airport. Now they say that the Chinese white dolphins will become extinguished with the third runway. But in fact, the dolphins will come back. I support the third runway. I studied the EIA report. I think the assumptions are reasonable and are proven by history. The white dolphins will not become extinct because of the project. These are the facts. We have seen the facts in the past. We have seen, we've read the environmental impact report. The fact shows that the dolphins have relocated themselves once. This is not being amputated and then put back an artificial limb. I fully support the third runway. Thank you.
Next, Mr. William Chung. I am a proprietor of a small enterprise, the development of the airport affects small and medium enterprises and ordinary members of the public. This is a long-term butterfly effect. The airport is near saturation, and yet demand is still growing. Very soon, demand will exceed supply. The costs will increase because of competition. The export and import costs will rise. The public will be directly affected. The cost of tourism increases. The tourism industry will be affected. Less tourists as a result of the higher travel costs. And the SMEs will suffer. Unemployment will rise. Young people will have difficulty starting their own business. The butterfly effect in the long term will exert pressure on the economy. The development of the third runway is therefore of long-term, is of great importance to all concerned. Next, Mr. Chung. We've heard a lot of people speaking in support of the third runway. Now, our concern group is a concern group for the third runway. We hope that the throughput will be accommodated as a result. If we do not build, then we wouldn't be able to maintain our throughput. Now, there's a simpler way to describe this. It's like a food kiosk being set up, and nearby there's another food kiosk nearby, and it also sells fish balls and vegetarian fish balls, and it also sells siu-mai. And so I am contemplating whether I need to buy new equipment to make the siu-mai. But as I contemplate, my customers will already be moving to the other kiosk or store. Then I realized that I will gain more clientele, but by the time I start to build the equipment and the construction costs will increase. So the fried siu-mai may affect the environment, but we already have a measure. That is, if we are concerned about conservation, there are solutions. In that case, we should do it as quickly as possible. Otherwise, costs will increase, the equipment will cost more, and the second kiosk will be like the Baiyun Airport, which is already having 3 runways and is building 4th and 5th ones. So Seoul, Singapore, they are Beijing, they are building 3rd, 4th, and 5th runways. And yet, how much more time do we have to delay? We won't be able to catch up. We want to build the 3rd runway so that Hong Kong can remain an international aviation club. Next, Mr. Eric Yim. I represent Hong Kong Young Industrialists Council. I speak in support of the 3rd runway system construction. The capacity of the HKIA is going to be saturated in the next 5 to 8 years. Our volume is already 1 to 3 years ahead of the estimates of Master Plan 2030. So we urgently need to build a new runway. Now, cities and countries in Asia-Pacific region are all expanding their capacity in their airports. If we do not do the same, our traffic volume will shrink. We will not be able to accommodate new airline companies. If we rely on neighboring airports to meet the demand for air traffic here in Hong Kong, then in the longer run, Hong Kong will lose out as an international aviation hub, and our competitiveness will be affected. Now, according to forecasts, the demand for air traffic in the Asia-Pacific region in the next 20 years will be higher than in the rest of the world, and that will particularly be the result of development in the Pearl River Delta. Now, by 2030, there will be about 390 million passengers trips per year in the Pearl River Delta, and it will open up great opportunities. Now, the air traffic grows with the Hong Kong economy. We have four major industries: finance, logistics, tourism, telecommunications. Now, they all have to do with the airport. Now, according to Master Plan 2030, the 4.6% of the GDP by that time. So, of course, the environment will be impacted, but we want to minimize that impact and strike a balance. We believe the AA has already preparing itself for a series of remedial or mitigation measures. So the SMEs are supportive of the early building of the third runway. Finally, I'd like to ask Ms. Kam Kha-man to speak. You have 3 minutes. Okay, the mic is on now. I'm an individual. I oppose the construction of the third runway. Firstly, it's because the runway will do great damage to the survival of the Chinese white dolphin, which represents Hong Kong, and that will affect Hong Kong's tourism industry. Secondly, the water channel will narrow, and the safety of ships and boats will be affected. Thirdly, the economic benefit of the third runway is not high. The $200 billion should be spent on social welfare. Finally, if there is to be any sacrifice from a plan, then that plan is not a good one. Next. Thank you. Next, I will ask DPD, AFCD, and the AA to speak in turn in response. And then members, if you wish to speak in this segment, please raise your hands. First, Mr. Chair of EPD. We thank the chairman and the deputations. Now, I have two points in response. Now, many deputations are in support of the third runway today, but there are also others who oppose it for environmental concerns. So we need to strike a balance between development and environment. Now, the EIA ordinance tries to set objective requirements and principles and standards. So it's not up to the individuals concerned, and in each professional aspect, there is a department who will be charged with the assessment, because the EPD doesn't know everything. For instance, the AFCD is familiar with ecology. The Marine Department is familiar with the shipping routes, etc. Now, after EPD receives the EIA report, we check against the statutory requirements. We consider carefully the views of the public and of the ACE and the department heads for the respective professional areas. Check out the assumptions of the report to make sure that the statutory requirements are met. Only then do we make the decision to approve. The process is objective and is not based on individual thought. Now, some people may misunderstand that only strategic environmental assessment is superior, but the SEA takes an overall assessment, whereas the item by item EIA looks at individual items. For instance, the Master Plan 2013 has a lot of items in consideration, but it undertakes an overall SEA. So for the 3RS, we conduct an SEA, and so we do take into account the cumulative impact. So we take into account existing plans, those already planned for, and we also take into account the EIA of the 3RS, and we assess on a cumulative basis. So EIA and the SEA are actually serving the same purpose. Mr. Shum? Now, of AFCD. Now, the AFCD looks at two aspects, the assessment for the ecology and for the fisheries. Now, we look at the requirements of the EIAO and of the technical memorandum when we make the assessment. I'd like to respond to one point raised by some deputations just now, that there has been no tagging for the dolphins, so we don't know where they are. Now, that's not true. Now, we have been monitoring the activities of the dolphins here in Hong Kong. We make use of photo identification. We look at the dorsal fins. These fins are quite unique. Now, for each dolphin, after the photo is magnified for the white dolphin's dorsal fin, we can identify each of them. And through such studies, we know that they move around within quite a large area. They also these areas extend to mainland waters, and this also shows up in some mainland studies. Now, there's a question on whether the white dolphins will return after the engineering works. Now, the EIA explored this matter, and international experts have made some forecasts. Now, for Chek Lap Kok, during the construction of the Chek Lap Kok Airport, the white dolphins at one point reduced to under 50 in number, but after the works are completed, the number increased to over 100. This is a fact. And according to the current EIA report, the international dolphin experts have made assessments based on observations. Mr. Peter Lee of the AAHK. Now, some deputations mentioned the cost figures Now, so I would like to clarify that here. Now, the AA is now assessing in detail the costs and formulating the budget and financial arrangements. When the studies are concluded, the AA will make proposals to the government for its consideration. Now, this assessment should be completed within a short time. Now, some deputations said that we should take into account social return on investment. Now, the AA heard these views early on, and we engaged our experts to take a look at this assessment. We find that this method of assessment only applies to small community projects. It doesn't really apply to a broadly embracing project with many stakeholders. And also there are no internationally accepted standards for this tool. So we think that this tool is not applicable to the 3RS. Now, of course, we know that in Heathrow they adopted this tool, but they looked at a smaller number of aspects. And the carbon emission is 70% of the cost. And we found that for carbon emission, there is a nationally recognized practice. So we engaged 3 experts to undertake a study on carbon emission using different methods. And in August last year, we explained the preliminary results to the media, and the results are that the cost, the benefits are far higher than the carbon cost. So there is a big positive return. Next, questions from members, 4 minutes each too, from 4 minutes for each member. First, Mr. Yip Chin Ming, maybe I should declare this. I'm a member of the AA, and I'm also a director of the Hong Kong Air Cargo Terminal. Now, most people today are have spoken in support of the 3RS. My Liberal Party colleagues have quoted some figures, and these studies are not unique. Mr. Soon Pak-man raised an important point, but the FCD has not fully answered Mr. Soon's question. Now, some green groups talked to me earlier concerning whether the dolphins will return, or is it that the number has decreased due to them dying out? Now, there are no figures. Now, Mr. Soon said that looking at the documentaries, the dolphins are tagged elsewhere. Now, and I asked why it's not done in Hong Kong. I was told that it's because the green groups object to it, because they love the dolphins. Now, Mr. Soon said that the AFCD does not allow this when the request has been made. So I'd like to ask the AFCD that you don't allow this because of objections from the green groups, but we see from the literature that this is actually quite a commonly used means. Now, the Chinese white dolphin is a protected creature. Unless approved by us, no one can cause nuisance to the body of the white dolphins. That includes tagging the white dolphin. They must give our approval first. This doesn't mean that we haven't done this work. Several years ago, we used something like darts to get certain tissues from the bodies of the dolphins. Now, we have done these studies, which are carried out internationally. Now, in the past 2 years, we have stopped this kind of application, making this kind of application, because we find that the overall numbers of white dolphins have decreased already in the Hong Kong waters for various reasons, and we discussed this in our committees, and we felt that we should adopt a cautious approach with regard to these studies. So we have stopped this kind of work for the time being, but I'd like to reiterate one point. We don't need to do some physical tagging to trace or track the white dolphins. Now, okay, I get your point. Now, I think you make visual assessments, but this is not a very effective means. Well, tagging is more clear. Now, you have confirmed that the FCD doesn't approve. It's not due to the objections of the green groups.
In many countries of the world, they tag their endangered species, so I do not understand why Hong Kong does not allow that. Can you elaborate on that, Mr. Sham? At the moment, we have not received any applications on tagging. I'm not talking about applications. Chairman, can you allow me to finish? 2 minutes, please. The challenge right now is that the Chinese white dolphins have moved out because of a major infrastructure projects. And if you are telling me that you have not received any applications, it doesn't make sense because you are the ones who need to do the work. Mr. James Yan, I'm not part of the EA panel, but I'm very interested in the issue. Apart from Chinese white dolphins, I'm interested about people. When the third runway is finished, when the runway is eventually finished, what are you going to do about the noise for the residents of Tuen Mun, Tsuen Wan, and Gold Coast? And you said the runway will be closed as much as possible during nighttime. Chairman, I lived in Kowloon Tong when I was young, and I've always been bothered by the noise, and I couldn't sleep because of the heavy noises generated. So what have you done to the residents of these districts with regards to noise control? Have you communicated with the relevant residents or district councils of Tuen Mun and Tsuen Wan? Have you had any meetings? So this is part of the social impact study. Has the government do anything on that, and what's the latest update? Mr. Chair from EPD. I will talk about the EIA reports, and perhaps the AA can talk about community liaison. On the issue of aircraft noise, according to the law, we have a set of standards called NEF 25. All residential developments should lie outside NEF 25. And according to the EIA report, for districts like Tuen Mun, Ching-yi, and Gold Coast, they all met the standards before we grant the approval. So the noise emissions were completely in line with the law. So perhaps you'd like to know more about NEF 25. What does it mean? NEF 25 is a set of international standards in acoustic planning in the international aviation community. And the types of engines were assessed, and a figure is calculated. And the NEF 25 standard is actually a bit stricter than our current 70 decibel standard used in roads. And for community liaison, maybe the AA can add more. Mr. Lee, please. Thank you very much for the question from Mr. Tian. And before our work on EIA commenced 2 years ago, we set up 5 social liaison groups with 5 neighboring districts, including the outlying islands, Sha Tin, Kwai Ching, Chun Wan, etc. We invited the relevant community leaders and district councillors, and throughout the consultation process, we had multiple meetings to explain the entire EIA process, including the assessment of aircraft noise. And we invited members of these liaison groups to our runways, and we wanted them to experience the how the issue of noise has been improved compared with the past. And I'm sure that many of them would have seen the improvements themselves. Even though we will have more aircrafts in the future, but with the advancement of technology, noise can be better controlled. If we have no further questions from this round, I'd like to use my 4-minute round. Mr. Vincent Fiang. I have a question on the capacity of the Chek-lap-Kok Airport. As I understand, we have almost reached our capacity, and even with when the 3rd runway is approved, when will it be completed? When will be the year of completion? And from now till the runway is completed, are we going to reach saturation before the 3rd runway is completed? And will some of our clientele be diverted to places like Shenzhen? Mr. Lee from AA. Thank you very much for the question. The current capacity of our 2 runways at the moment is 420,000 flights. And by 2016 or 17, we will reach saturation. And if the 3rd runway project goes according to plan, it will be in operation by 2023. And the capacity will be increased from 420,000 to 620,000 flights per year. And according to current forecasts, the 3rd runway will be saturated by around 2030, and every 2 years the master plan will be reviewed, and we will propose suggestions on the future of the 3rd runway. Chairman, as Mr. Lee said, the 2 runways will be saturated by 2016 or 17, but the 3rd runway won't be in operation until 2023. So in the meantime, during the 6 or 7 years, what are we going to do? Are you not expecting any increase in flights, or are you going to allow our clients to turn to Shenzhen instead? The 3rd runway, I'd like to make a correction. The 3rd runway should be in operation by 2032 instead of 2030. And after 2016, what are we going to do? This is a question we are tackling right now. Under the current dual runway system, we are looking at ways to increase capacity to handle more air traffic movements. The handling capacity has to do with the distance between flights. If we have to shorten the distance between the flights, are we going to have any safety issues? Our handling capacity must satisfy international standards. As I mentioned, if we can slightly increase our handling capacity, we still have to observe all the relevant safety requirements. So all in all, even if the 3rd runway is approved today, and we are going to see saturation by 2016 to 17. In the years after, with limited handling capacity, our clients will be diverted to other cities. Is that correct, Mr. Lee? If the aviation trade has a very clear plan or anticipation of the opening of the third track in 2023, businesses will be able to adjust their business plans. But if we don't have a third runway in the meantime, our clients might turn to other airports, that's for sure. Dr. Kenneth Chen. Thank you, Chairman. The Deputy Director, Mr. Chair, tried to explain the similarities and differences between SEA and EIA. And he said EIA also covers aggregates environmental impacts. So the key is whether the AA is doing a good job in the EIA exercise. And during the public hearing exercises, we have received a lot of oral and written submissions. And Mr. Lam Chiu-ying submitted a written statement. I'm not sure if you've read his statement. I'm not sure if how you are going to respond to the ninth paragraph of his submission on the issue of EIA. I'm not sure if the Deputy Director had read his statement. His criticism was very, very clear, and his opinion is that you got the focus wrong. And you have missed some very basic geographical assumptions when you conducted EIA and when you came up with mitigation measures. So I'm sure that he has made it very clear that he is opposed to the third runway. So can Mr. Chair address this question? Have you read paragraph 9 of his submission? Vice Chairman, perhaps you can briefly outline what's been said in paragraph 9. The relevant papers were all uploaded on the electrical website, including Mr. Lam's statement. How will the EPD respond? Yes, I have read his written submission before the meeting today. His main argument was that the 3RS will affect dolphins in the future because of land reclamation. And after the reclamation, we'll lose an area of the waters, and as such, the dolphins will have less space to move around. And as a suggestion, Mr. Lam mentioned that the actual impacts extend beyond the area reclaimed. Later on, the coastline will change. The routes for vessels will change. Then the flight tracks will change. And at the same time, there will be a loss of habitat of 60 square kilometers for the dolphins. So this is his argument. But the EIA report itself, apart from the reclaimed area, as you know, the area compensated will be 2,400 hectares, which is far greater than the area lost. And the new marine park will also be linked with the Brothers Islands. So the sanctuary for dolphins will be very big. So the compensation, so we have overcompensated for the loss of area. So according to the report, the compensation is adequate. Perhaps Mr. Chan from AFCD can add more. Can the AFCD speak first? the area of the marine park recommended is 2,400 hectares, and the marine park will link up with other marine parks, including the marine park at the Brothers Islands, as well as the PRD sanctuary. These areas will be linked together, and all together it will form a very big protection area, and the total area will be 5,200 hectares, which is far beyond the 650 hectares lost through land reclamation. So paragraph 10 of Mr. Lam's statement, according to that paragraph, his comments were shared with the government, and yet he didn't receive any response. And the project at the Brothers Islands is only under planning, and we don't even have any timelines at now. In theory, it should be a very big area, but you might face opposition from different people, including fishermen and the residents. So our criticism is that the government always destroys the environment before coming up with mitigation measures. Mr. Sham, Mr. Yik asked why you did not tag the dolphins, and your answer was that you might affect the dolphins' growth. I understand that the study on dolphins is quite limited. You are only looking at dolphins in Hong Kong waters. You are ignoring dolphins in China waters. Why is there such a limit or restriction? When we look at environmental issues, we are looking at cross-boundary impacts. Why can't we cooperate with mainland China to study the number of dolphins in our waters? And as such, you can reassure many of the deputations here today on the welfare of the dolphins. In this regard, many project proponents and government departments are already doing work. And since more than 10 years ago, the FCD has been monitoring the number of dolphins in this area, so we have relatively ample figures. In China, they have similar studies, but since cross-boundary work is involved, they would only have resources if cross-boundary work is involved. We do have an exchange of resources and information, and certain academic journals pointed out that these journals pointed out when our dolphins will stay in Hong Kong and when they will migrate to China. And as more information is available through these studies, we will have a better understanding. As far as I know, several hundred dolphins in Hong Kong have been identified, and we have a good knowledge of their area of movement in Hong Kong waters. Most of them are loyal to Hong Kong waters, and some of them would traverse between Hong Kong and China. So they are not bounded by particular borders. We will step up our studies in this area, and we'll look at possible impacts on the projects on these dolphins. Your response is rather general. You didn't share any figures or stats. I think the green groups, especially those who are concerned with the Chinese white dolphin, would be looking forward to more follow-up work from the administration. In the future, if you can announce more statistics on the 3RS, I'm sure you will be able to reassure the green groups and the public. If we have no other questions, this is the end of this session. I'd like to thank the deputations and the public again for your valuable comments. Members, please be reminded to come back at 2:30 p.m. for the third round.